right, tough questions hanging on the rafters of our minds as Linturi claims fertilizer is good. This is on the front page of a Standard today. Agriculture CS Bethika Linturi has for the umpteenth time said there is no fake fertilizer in the country. However, he admits this, that just 3,000 bags were found unsuitable for use. However, farmers tell a different story, as you heard that story that we ran you by in our news bulletin. Holding court this morning with Owen Baya, who is the Deputy Majority Leader at the National Assembly. Also, we have with us Dr. Otiende Amolo, who is the Senior Counsel and a Member of Parliament for Rarieda. Also, we have Okongo Mogini, who is the Senior Counsel and a Senator of Nyamira. And we have a Senator of Tana River as well, Danson Mungatana. Let's just begin with you, Daktari, and this development that we can see. The Thika Linturi has been adamant and is not rowing back. He knows the truth that this was substandard, they were unsuitable, but they were not fake.
Yes, Debao. I think on the issue of this subsidized fertilizer, this regime has displayed what we can only call a tragedy of errors. And there's been demonstration of great ineptitude. And more importantly, there's been a lot of unnecessary denials and misleading statements. First, when the issue arose, there was just flat denial that there's nothing like fake fertilizer. When it was demonstrated that there was actually fake fertilizer, they then moved to say, now there were some cartels who are out to undermine government. Obviously, if there were cartels, then there were cartels working with government, and they would know those cartels. When then it became heated, then now we've moved to the question of fake versus substandard, that it is not fake, but it is substandard. If you just go to any dictionary, the definition of fake is one that is not authentic or genuine. That is the dictionary definition of fake, and that's exactly what has been distributed. It is not genuine and it is not authentic. As farmers have demonstrated all over, they've kept distributing things that look like stones or things that look like sand. I do not know where they scooped them from. And then they're in, bags that are supposed to be authentic. But beyond that, then you come to question of numbers. The Deputy President says, over 10 million bags were imported and only about 50,000 are fake. The minister says only 3,000 are fake. And all these numbers are flying without any documentation. See? No one seems to have a clear track of who supplied which fertilizer and where to know the extent of the problem. The other tragedy is there's been clear dereliction of duty by the regime. I want to thank the Agriculture Committee of the National Assembly for what they're doing, but it is not their primary responsibility to do it. Parliament is a forum for accountability for things that have been done or not done, political responsibility. Parliament is not an investigative agency for purposes of crimes that have been committed. And in this case, crimes have been committed. Why would it be that the National Assembly then becomes the primary organ of investigation? And we have all this, we have the NSIS, we have the DCI, we have the police, we have everyone who should actually have investigated these matters. And by now, a lot of people should be facing jail term. I agree with Senator Mungatana that there's need to take political responsibility. But beyond political responsibility, there must be criminal culpability. And we should not be hearing the president saying that heads will roll. It means that some people were waiting for the signal. They are not sure whether they should do their work because they do not know the extent of the corruption in that sector. It should not be so. It should be automatic. I think that in this tragedy, the first thing must be political responsibility, and I agree with Senator Mungatana, and it should be very swift. You do not need to persuade anybody. The president has the power to deal with that aspect. Secondly, is criminal culpability, and that should follow automatically. Thirdly, there must be compensation for the farmers. And it's not just compensation by way of giving them, additional fertilizer. It is compensation for the loss that they've suffered because the crops will have failed also. So it must be compensation that takes into account all these things. But more importantly, we must understand how we got to a situation where you can actually, officially distribute fake fertilizer. That's what we need to. This is yet another tragedy, many of the other crises that we are facing in this country, but which we need to get to the bottom of.
Don't you think it's consternating that we've not even seen the face of the anti-counterfeit agency? I know you'll struggle even maybe to mention his name, Kongo Mogini. Should he have been speaking volubly regarding this particular matter, amongst other agencies, even appearing before and alongside the CS, before the Agriculture Committee?
I think, Dibal, I agree with you, but what worries me most is where KEBS was when this fertilizer was passing through our borders into the country. Because they're the ones who are tasked with ensuring that we don't get substandard goods or items into this country. So the real responsibility should be with the KEBS, And I think previously we have seen cases where a former MD of KEBS was charged in court for allowing substandard products to be imported into the country. But really, these things, I cannot even overemphasize what Senator Mugarana said, that somebody somewhere must take political responsibility. In the Second World War, there was a president in the US, I think it was called Harry Truman, if I'm not wrong. He's the one who dropped the bombs in Japan. And in his office, he has put a writing saying, the buck stops with me, And he said, everything that happens in the US, the buck stops with me. If we succeed as a country, the buck stops with me. If we fail as a country, the buck stops with me. So in this one, the person that should take full political responsibility is the CS Agriculture. And at times you wonder how people can be so disconnected with common mwananchi. I listened to the CS yesterday saying that we are going to ask farmers to surrender back fertilizer. Even me as a peasant farmer, we don't have big land in Kisii. I do maize farming in like 2 acres. I bought my fertilizer the same day, and I used it for planting the same day. Farmers don't buy fertilizer to keep in their stores. You send for the fertilizer, you do the planting the same day or the following day. If you keep it longer in your house, maybe for a week. So when you're telling farmers that surrender the fertilizer and you replace it, you're out of touch with the reality. I think the most, the most realistic thing to do is what Honorable Tiende has just said this morning. We must now anticipate that there will be serious crop failure across the country. Most of the consequences of what we have seen, this fertilizer, will come to the fore in the next 2 months or so, when you will see maize that is supposed to be looking green turning yellow. And then by the 3rd month, when you are supposed to be harvesting, there will be no maize. So the government should actually be saying, we have set aside an adequate budget that will be used to compensate the farmers. Because the negligence is from the government of the day. It's the government that is supposed to ensure that fertilizer that is being supplied to farmers is of good quality and that it is fit for the purpose, which is to ensure that the maize will be nourished and we have a bumper harvest. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And the best we can do as a responsible government is to take full responsibility and cushion the farmers. And then tell us, what measures are you putting in place to ensure that in the next planting season, the same mistake will not happen? And then you look at government and you get shocked. The number 2, in command, the deputy president tells us that 50,000 bags out there are fake. CS Linturi appears before Parliament and he tells the country that only 3,000 bags of fake or substandard fertilizer, to quote him, were released to the market. You know, it tells you that the system, the regime is so dysfunctional to a level that the best they should do is maybe to say we are unable to govern. Because when you're talking to citizens, okay, you tell them that you have released to the market 50,000 fake fertilizers as a number 2 command. Once that information trickles down to the citizens, they are supposed to believe you as a deputy president of a country. Somebody down there comes the following day and then releases a statement that contradicts a deputy president and says it's only 3,000. Unfortunately, my friend Senator Mungatana, what we have seen, these are government of friends. We don't know who are the cartels. We don't know who are the beneficiaries.
Thank you.
So the appeal you're making this morning that people will take political responsibility, unfortunately, my brother, nothing will happen.
All right, we have a very interesting editorial cartoon as well. I want us just to gravitate away from the fertilizer. If my director may just pick it up in full. I think it's in tandem with what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Musalia to fold ANC in grand UDA plan. That is a splash. And we can see the president is playing hop, skip and stop to reach the power there. And you can see that particular rungu or a blangion, whatever it is. It's very interesting, right? This is in the editorial cartoon that we had, and this is what we have on the front page of a Daily Nation. If I may just roll that quickly. Musalia to fold ANC in grand UDA plan. I want just to begin with Owen Baya. What is happening? ANC is being swallowed. In fact, Taifa Leo puts it very well. Mudavadi amezwa na UDA. So we've heard from this particular panel before, Ted Omolo also decry the fact that, Parliament has been swallowed, so to speak. And it seems also other parties. This goes back to the initial vision of UDA, where we had people saying that its quest is to be the super mega party in this country.
I think
so. Going by this headline and what we're seeing right now, we've not heard from, but this is the latest development so far. Are you trying to be a super mega party, UDA?
This country, Kenya, is a democracy that is in the works. It's a democracy that is still growing. Stronger democracies in the world have been democracies that have 2 strong parties. And if you look at the US, you see the Republicans and the Democrats, 2 major parties that actually have ideologies that make the party different from the other. You go to the UK, you have the Conservatives and the Labour. They are strong, 2 strong parties. You don't have a plethora of many parties as such. Of course, there are small parties there that are based on some kind of ideologies and all that. This country, for us to get to that level of a strong democracy, probably we need also to relook at our political engineering and start fashioning ourselves as a democracy that has 2 major parties. One party has a different ideology from the other, so that we can move this country politically and economically forward. And therefore, the idea of having UDA as a strong party is not actually turning it into a super or whatever party that you're looking at, but it's like to strengthen democracy in the country. And to strengthen democracy in the country, probably we need to look at, are we different ideologically? Is it just the name that is different, or are we really politically different in terms of ideology? Or we can actually have the same ideologies and belong to the same fold. And therefore, the idea of having parties that are within Kenya Kwanza, because they belong to the same political coalition, they have a semblance of same ideologies, and therefore there's nothing wrong with UDA trying to court court other parties to come on the fold and actually fold themselves and come and belong to one party. So I do not think it's a strange thing in this country. It happened with the Jubilee. Jubilee started as Jubilee Alliance Party, and then no, it started as Jubilee Coalition, and then eventually became Jubilee Party. And some parties were folded, and you know, they all became one mega party.
I don't remember the Jubilee Coalition. I remember the Alliance, and maybe you were in the ODM as well. But should that really serve you as a warning flare and a flag for you that you began as a Jubilee Alliance party? You swallowed all these other parties.
Yes, yes.
Can you talk of Jubilee today as an intact party that is streamlining democracy?
Of course, that experiment failed because of what was at the leadership. But I think President William Ruto, I've heard him speak many times, but he believes in strong parties, you know, that brings many people together. I think that is his belief, and he was the architect of having these other parties fall, but I think the leadership then of Jubilee failed. But I do not see anything wrong with attracting other parties into your party, that they fold and join the bigger party, so that now we have our politics properly streamlined. And I would like to see this country move to the level of the US and the UK, where we have two major parties that compete on ideologies. They compete. They have different agenda. They can stick to certain level of thinking. You know, that is the best way to move a country forward. Other than when you have this country, I don't know. I lost count of the parties in this country, but probably we are getting to 200. I don't know.
No. I think there are about 47.
About 47 parties there within this small space. I think we should make deliberate attempts as Kenyans to ensure that we move to a space where we have two strong parties, so that even Parliament can be competitive. You know, right now, Parliament...
How consultative is this? Because we have people within UDA right now who they've expressed disquiet and concern regarding how the UDA affairs is being run.
I want to tell you,
party, but within the coalition itself.
The UDA party is one of the most consultative parties.
Some other people will have a very different view.
Yes.
But if you're fully attuned with what is happening within UDA and the Kenya Kwanza coalition, Mount Kenya is also expressing and raising hesitation regarding, being also within Kenya Kwanza. Some legislators, I think also that it has tapered off after they were whipped, so to speak. But they were raising voices that they feel should changed. As a matter of fact, as we speak, I think Kimani Ngunjiri has bolted from UDA.
No, right? Kimani Ngunjiri bolted from UDA during the elections.
No, right now officially, as we have it in the publication, he has bolted because he feels you have changed in tone and tenor as far as your manifesto is concerned. It's not the UDA that was on the ground. This is a different UDA that is being seen. But have you done any consultation so that you might go and because this will be maybe the beginning of implosion of UDA?
You see, Debala, I want to say this, that as a party, we are aware of the affairs of our party. We know how consultative the party is. I think this is the only party that has held several PGs. We have had very many parliamentary group meetings. The party organs are active. Registration of the party is going on. So this is not like any other party that you know out there. This is a party that consults within its ranks and without its ranks.
Right.
The president was at the Hustler Center the other day to chair the Central Management Committee meeting. And I think I can tell you for the record that UDA party is one of the most consultative parties.
Let's leave it at that.
Our partners of Kenya Kwanza are people that we work very closely with. We are always consulting, and therefore it should not surprise you, Debal, that going forward we might have consensus in terms of other parties folding and joining the UDA. And it is normal. Even when the prodigal son was coming home, it is the other son who has been at home who complained. And these things will happen. There are people who will feel that if Musalia Mudavadi comes into UDA, probably their space will be taken. But the president has been very clear. This party has space for everyone. UDA party has space for everyone. We are, even when I know that there'll be a lot of orphans when the Honorable Raila Odinga exits the chairmanship of ODM, and there'll be many orphans. We want to tell Otiende Molo, if he feels that he can be comfortable in UDA, we welcome him. And if he can bring ideas to the party, Okongo Omogeni's political ideology is not very different from us. We would like to welcome him. We have space.
Next time we come with the merchandise.
UDA is a party that has space for everyone, and we want to welcome. We want to have this country in such a way that we have parties that are not that are not tribal, that are not regional. We want to have national parties. We know ODM has the unfortunate position right now of relocating itself to just a Luo Nyanza party. And instead of having that situation, we would like to see an ODM that is strong.
Thank you.
As UDA, we would like to see a strong ODM.
Let me move on to Honorable Mugatana. Is the president consolidating power? Are we seeing a super uber presidency that wants to, as I say, this is the spirit of democracy, but I think democracy is having so many voices on the ground other than two voices, as it's trying to do right now with the swallowing of ANC. Who knows with these other parties how also they're going to respond. And what is this tsunami that we're expecting as well? But is the president consolidating power? Are we seeing a super uber president, as I've mentioned?
Did you say super uber?
Uber. Or maybe it's Super UDA. It's a Super UDA mega party.
I take the view that a big party is good for minority tribes like some of us in Tana River County. I say so because if you look at the CCM in Tanzania, people of small tribal extractions are able to get nominated, or they have equal chance because of public service and whatnot. Everybody files for nomination. Like I remember very well when Kikwete was leaving, several people filed for nomination, and then you seek support, and then the person who gets the majority support or get traction in his candidature gets elected by the party to be the party bearer for the presidential candidacy. In South Africa, which is going to elections on 29th of this month, of May, 29th of May, South Africa will go to elections. And I was also there to see some of the bit of activity that started picking up now. And you see that the party comprises of everyone, as in people from Gauteng province, KwaZulu-Natal on the other side, the Cape. You'll find it has support across. And the person who is in Joburg and the person who is in Cape Town, they have equal chance of getting into senior positions within the party. And the question of tribalism is sort of reduced within that setup, because those who are together are working together, irrespective of where you come from. They tend to look at other factors rather than your tribal extraction to reach where you are. So I think the idea is good. Let us bring as many of us as possible, and it is also constitutional, because the Constitution allows for freedom of association. What I think ought to happen is our political parties should be so attractive, should be made so attractive by the leadership that other people are willing to come. We should not use the other approach of creating walls, where now people are told, once you are in here, you can't leave, That kind of approach, I think, is a negative approach. What we should have in Kenya is a vibrancy, that if people, if conditions are created so well, people are willing to come home. If you build your house so well, you create a nice family environment, people are willing to visit you. People are willing to come even and join your family. People are willing to marry your children. Your children, boys and girls, are able to attract other families to come so that it becomes an even bigger family. That is the idea, that is the philosophy behind asking other people to come and join. And we don't think that we should make a big deal out of requesting Mudavadi, because I think the requests have been going on for various other political parties.
But what is the game plan? Because when you look at the chase, for every move there is a motive, there is an intent. On this particular play, what is the game plan, and what is this tsunami that we do expect?
The intent is to create a party where we are able to win and increase our numbers in government, and then put our policies and effect our policies.
But there's nothing surprising with that. I mean, that's expected.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Why should it be a tsunami?
Because maybe big names are coming, Big names are coming, and we are still talking to many big names. And maybe some of them it's not correct to mention them here. But we are talking to many big names, and it will surprise a lot of people. That I can guarantee you. So you right now you are talking about Mudavadi. Let me just say, you are just talking about Mudavadi, but I'm telling you there are very many big names that we are talking to.
All right, Otieno Molo, hope you know that list of the big names that that will cross over. But you can tell us in the spirit.
I want to put Owen Bayer's mind to rest that I do not share your ideology at all. So I am highly unlikely to ever join you. First of all, Dubal, there is no law, logic, or political reason to ask any party to wind up and join another. None at all. On the contrary, it runs counter to the express provisions of the Constitution. Article 4.2 of the Constitution of Kenya declares Kenya as a multi-party democratic state. Mm-hmm. Multi in English and even law means many, not two, Owen Bayer. It means many. Our Constitution encourages as many parties as can be allowed. And so to say that you are encouraging parties, to wind up because, it's constitutional is actually to mislead.
We didn't say it's a good tradition.
Secondly, there is nothing that you do or not do now which you will do only when these parties fold and join UDA. Right now you have that alliance under Kenya Kwanza. And the law in this country allows parties to have a coalition. So if it's a question of organizing yourselves around, we have had two major political formations. The Azimio coalition and the Kenya Kwanza coalition. If it was just a question of practices and doing whatever, you would be able to still do it under coalition. You do not need to ask any party, to wind up. The reason why parties are being asked to wind up is because the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and the president has never really believed in multipartism. These are people who cut their teeth in KANU under President Moi, when President Moi was practicing what you'd call KANU authoritarianism as a single party, Mm-hmm. And they've never really accepted this idea of multipartism. So they would rather consolidate, parties as much as possible in order to, to stifle them. That's the same reason why, after we were elected, they poached many of our colleagues, even though they were not in their party. They poached them post-election. And now they're not satisfied with that. They want to poach them right inside the party, that you must be inside UDA or you take the highway,
This could be the tsunami that, some of the people who are deeming.
Yes, tsunami only affects those they want. The other thing that shows that is that you will see that since this regime came in, political parties are struggling. Monies that are supposed to be given to political parties by right are actually not being given. And Owen Bayer knows this, because they believe that for them they can survive, because they mix the business of party and government. There is no clear line. So they use government resources even for party, undertakings. That's why they're getting the chairman of KRA to do party grassroots elections. We do not know the reason must be that they want to use our taxes for those elections.
How else
should you do that? So I think what's evident, and that's what's being shown there, this is a display of tyrannical and authoritarian tendencies, and we've seen a lot of that. And I think that the real story there is you should look at the end of that cartoon. What is written as power there. That's as piped rungu. It tells you the kind of authoritarianism that President Ruto and his regime are given to. But
power.
For me, it's even more fundamental. I don't even think that cartoon is about, parties winding up and, and coming into UDA. I actually think the real story is what I heard yesterday when they were opening the cement factory. And this guy, the owner of Devki, had the guts to stand up and say he wants Ruto to rule for at least 25 years.
That's freedom of expression.
My own colleague, said it's not even 25 years, it should be for life. And what's striking is that neither the president nor any of the speakers, none of them denounced it. That's a very dangerous thing. I think that's what this cartoon is about.
Freedom of expression. Man is having
Purely freedom of
expression. Yeah, freedom of expression for 25 years. Yeah. But the president has been extremely supportive of that particular company in the coast.
Yeah.
Also in the West Pokot. Are there interests? Could there be any interests? I'm just asking.
Somebody has.
I'm just asking.
45 billion.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
45 billion.
Is there any interest?
What would you?
I mean, this supporter to giving to Devki, why aren't you showcasing to other companies as well at the end of the day? But anyway, I was just asking.
45 billion to other companies.
Why are you asking the audience?
An investor who has pumped in 45 billion. That's an investor that should be respected.
All right.
Dangote
was here.
Yes.
Dangote also wanted to pump in lots of billions
but
as
that
well.
time the regime there.
No, it was. No, don't say it was a different regime. It was this. Which regime was this? It was part of the regime.
No.
Was it part of the regime?
So it's always convenient.
No, I'm just asking. No, I'm just posing a question. I'm just posing a question because I've been wondering this support, the solidarity that is
today,
here.
the ban, if you came and said you want to invest 50 billion into this country, into a sector, the president will stop what he's doing, he'll come to you. Because you are part of his plan to create jobs, to create wealth, and to help the country.
That's what I'm asking. Where was there no any particular interest with such an investor like Dangote? We didn't see any government stopping.
Was different guy, and I don't think the former head of state really had interest in such investment. But today, for Tendo Molo today says he wants to invest 50 billion into this economy. The president will come to his house.
But you could see,
just
a moment. But Owen, we could see. It was the same business, the clinker and the cement that Dangote wanted to invest here at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
That was a different head of state.
But I'm just saying...
Give Ruto his
due. Okay.
Due.
All right. That was just a sidebar. Let me come to Okongo Mogini.
Yeah, I think...
Still in the spirit of UDA, I want us just to... Because we've talked a good game about it, and you've mentioned UDA chair, I wanted just to get clarity, you as a senior counsel, as well, as far as the law is concerned. Is there any breach of law? Because we've had members of ODM saying, the chair of KRA should not actually be participating in UDA party politics. Him as who will be overseeing, or maybe being the election director. Also Joe Mudivo as the person presiding also over the district tribunal at the end of the day. They are different opinions. Yeah?
By and by, we are really mutilating the 2010 Constitution. And we choose when to respect it, when not to respect it. I serve in Parliamentary Service Commission. And when we were interviewing Johnson Modama to join the commission, the first thing he did, and I think it was at the request of the UDA regime, was to resign as the chair of UDA. Because I think the party appreciated that there is no way you could mix Johnson Muthama as the chair of UDA and him serving as a state officer. And when he appeared before us, he said his party, before proposing his name to join Parliamentary Service Commission, requested him to resign as the chair of UDA. And I'm sure my colleagues here will agree that that's the advice they gave him. So I don't understand how come now the KRA chair is being told to double up as the chair of KRA, which I would call a state office, and again be the chair of UDA. It's the chair of UDA Elections Board or something. Yeah, I think that's a serious conflict which we should not condone as a country, because when you open up and mix politics with public service, that's where the mess begins. Otienda Molo served as a member of the Committee of Experts. Will tell you that was the spirit, that was the intention of Kenyans behind creating Chapter 6 and separating politics from those who are placed in positions of service in the country. The reason is very simple, Deban. When I walk into KRA, I should not look at the KRA chairman as an UDA appointee. I should look at him as a state officer who is in office to serve both people who belong to UDA, those who belong to ODM, and those who belong to other parties. But when you come to a situation where you walk into an office and as you appear there, that I'm dealing with an UDA official, you will obviously be in a position where you will conclude this guy will not be fair to me. So I think it's bad manners, and it's something that as a country we should condemn and we should not condone. There are so many talented Kenyans who can be picked to undertake the job that is being handed over to the chair of KRA. That will be my personal opinion, and I think the law is on my side on this one. Leadership and Integrity Act, the Code of Conduct for people who are serving in the public service, all backs the position that I'm presenting this morning. But when you want to show that you are a government that promotes impunity, you do everything that you know is wrong, but you say mutadu, and that's where we are now, where the government is telling us we will do that which nobody thought will ever happen, but mutadu, and we are just operating as if everything is normal. And I sympathize with my friend Owen Baya. You can see how he struggles when you ask him a few of these questions, because ODM created Owen Baya, and I know that in terms of ideology, he still belongs to this side. That's why when he's on this show, every morning he struggles, and I want to appeal to my brother here, in the fullness of time, leave that party, and it is warm at this side. I know it's cold on the other side. It's lonely. It's lonely.
It has never been lonely.
So I know at heart is ODM. You can see how he answers questions when he's on this show. He's really struggling on that side. So instead of asking us to join, we want to appeal to you to come back home. It's much warmer. This side. We will warmly welcome you back home.
So where does the law stand before we come to Owen Baya? Where does the law stand regarding this? Because I think also we had Senator Sigei here expressing the opinion that it is lawful, because there was a Katiba Institute case that was filed a while back that really sought the opinion of a court to make clarity as far as if these board members are public officers, in light of what the Constitution really says. And I have it here that says the board of directors, there is established a board of directors which shall be the governing body of the authority. I think that is the KRA by then. The board shall comprise the following members: a chairperson to be appointed by the president, the commissioner or the commissioner general, the principal secretary with the Ministry of Finance or his representative, the Attorney General or his representative, 6 other persons appointed by the Cabinet Secretary by the virtue of their knowledge and experience in accountancy, commerce, law, taxation, business administration or public administration. No person shall be appointed as the chairperson of the board or as a member of a board under paragraph E of subsection 2, and all those lengthy stuff, such a person is a public officer or has been a public officer within the immediate preceding 12 months. I want you just to break it down for me, what it really says here, because I think this is also what I asked him to forward him, to me, so that I could be able to decipher it. But at the end of the day, we have the Constitution and we have now the interpretation from the court, predicating that particular premise on what Katiba Institute had said. Is any breach of law with this? I can see even here they say the chair at least shall be, the chair shall be a person with knowledge and experience in matters relating to tax policy or legislation. If we were to follow the dupe or the act itself, do you think also there was a violation in appointing this particular chair of KRA? Can you make it just clear for us so that we go to Owen so that he has a case now to defend? Can you prosecute?
you know, competence is not one of the criteria for UDA to appoint people. As I said, these are government of...
No, let's begin from the law. Let's begin with the Constitution.
I'm trying to answer you. These are government of friends.
And I'll support before.
These are government of friends. Yes. And I told you that the biggest mark for this government is impunity. You know, where you say, even what you have read there, nobody reads the law before an appointment is made. Because one, Parliament, when it's doing its vetting, will not bother to look at qualification. It's about party affiliation, who are friends of UDA or who are party loyalists. And that's where the rain started beating us. We have thrown professionalism out of the window. You will be appointed, go to Parliament, you'll be vetted. Parliament is voiceless, visionless. We are not undertaking public interest anymore. So I don't need to answer you. Even if I ask you that question, you'll give me an answer. That's what's happening all over. Professional qualifications, competence is no longer a criteria. In terms of what you have just asked me about political affiliation, you know, even as we get, towards elections, you will not find a chair of a public body moving to elections without first quitting office. That should answer your question. By the time you are seeking an elective post, you must resign from any public appointment.
Thank you.
Position.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right.
And then finally, I just wanted to make one sentence, or maybe for the benefit of Rigathi Gachagua. I think what is building up in UDA is in response to what is happening in the mountain. The mountain seems to be shifting politically. The relationship, the body language I see, the relationship between President Ruto and DP Gachagua is becoming sour. The bringing in of Musalia is sending signals to Rigathi Gachagua that Mount Kenya will not have a place in UDA in 2027, because I think of the policies that have been in place from UDA is very punishing to people in Mount Kenya. You have seen what has happened on the taxation on the avocado farmers in Mount Kenya. You will see it in the tea farmers. The traders who are importing goods from abroad. If you read the auctions,
thank you.
The people who are suffering most.
Thank you.
If you look at the auctions in newspapers, the business people who are feeling the heat from this regime.
Thank you.
Is people who hail from that bedrock of Rigathi Gachagua.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for me, as we head to 2027, Rigathi Gachagua will be kicked out of UDA.
Right.
And in replacement, we shall have Musalia Mudavadi.
That is good. Wishful thinking.
Okay. Just be brief, because also we are pitched for time today. We are supposed to be winding up earlier, so that's why I'm actually in a tearing rush to make sure we get comments from you.
Very quickly,
very quickly, please.
On that issue, I have had a lot of people say a lot of things justifying why the chair of KRA, I don't know, the chair of Kenya Power can be partisan, and they are wrong. First of all, the Katiba Institute case that they quote is a case under appeal. It was decided by a single judge. It is still on appeal. You cannot talk authoritatively in terms of the position of the law unless a matter has gone through the appeal processes up to the Supreme Court. That's the only time you can say there's a definitive interpretation of the law. So to use an interim interpretation as a basis then becomes dangerous, because if it stand on the court, if it stand at the Court of Appeal or at the Supreme Court, what will you do? The harm will have been done. If UDA were being serious, even if they wanted such an interpretation, they would await the appeal processes to go to the highest court. Then they would say there has been a definite interpretation of this matter. Secondly, the question of going to the KRA Act and stuff like that, and the section that some of the people have been citing, saying it requires that you ought not to be a public officer for you to be appointed, is a contradictory argument. Of course, you cannot be appointed if you are already a public officer, because most of our interpretation and most of these positions require you not to hold two public offices. That's why it's required that you should not be a public officer. But from the point you are appointed, you are now a public officer. Thirdly, the answer to this question lies in the Constitution itself. And I want to take you to Article 232, the values and principles of public service. Okay? Now, the values of public service include A, high standards of professional ethics. C, prompt, effective, impartial, and equitable provision of services. Impartial, note that. E, accountability for administrative acts. F, transparency, and it goes on, And who does it cover? If you come to 232.2, the values and principles of public service apply to public service in A, all state organs in both levels of government, and B, all state corporations. So any argument that suggests that somebody who is part of a state corporation is not a public officer, is not in public service, is false. But if you come to now the definition in Article 261 at the very end, if you have your constitution, you just come to page 285. Public office means an office in the national government, a county government, or the public service if the remuneration and benefits of the office are payable directly from the consolidated fund or directly out of money provided by Parliament. As long as you are being paid from the public coffers, you are in public office. And therefore the Article 232 applies to you and this very article. So the argument of creating a distinction that no, this one serves as a chair, what they earn is 10,000 or is it 80,000 per sitting?
80,000.
It does not matter. Even if they were earning 1,000, but that 1,000 is provided for out of money allocated by Parliament, you are in public office. It's as simple as that. But secondly, even if it was not clear, then you would come to Article 20 of the Constitution. Whenever you are in doubt, you come to Article 20 of the Constitution in terms of interpretation of the Constitution and issues relating to Bill of Rights and all that. And if you come to Article 24, you will see that in interpreting the Constitution in this part, you are required to advance the values that underlie an open and democratic society based on human dignity, equality, and freedom, and B, the spirit, purpose, and objects of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Ultimately, a proper democratic government must ask itself, even if there was a gap in the Constitution, what is the purpose and what's the intention of the Constitution in restricting certain activities to be undertaken by public officers? And you will find that the proper interpretation to advance the purposes and the spirit of the Constitution would be not to allow a public officer to participate in partisan politics.
Thank you.
And it's as clear as that.
Right. I think I should give it to Mungatana, then to you, right?
No, because this was my chance, then you took it back to him.
Yes.
But I want to say this. You see, if you see Atiende Omolo quoting several articles and moving back and forth, he's clutching on straws. He needs to know, although he is famed as one of the people.
Before you even go to,
I want to make a point.
Just a moment, because I think also Congo raised a very fundamental question that you should answer first.
Yes.
Are you playing double speak with Mudama. He should resign.
No. I want to say this. You see,
to be, part of a commissioner in the Parliamentary Service Commission, and so he should step down as a chair of UDA.
Okay, I want to say this.
Yes. So what is being applied here that we don't really understand?
You see, before Mudama was appointed to that position, and I don't want to go into the Mudama case, I just want to state this point.
Mudama case is a serious case.
Yes, it's relevant. I'll come to it. I'll come to it, but I want to say this. You see, when you see Otenda Mola quoting all those, he wrote the Constitution, yes, but there's a body. There's a body that we can step on and say, this is a judgment. And that judgment has not been vacated. Okay, it has not been vacated. So it is valid as it is right now, and it can be used to do the appointments as they are. So when Otenda Molo wants to arrogate himself the position that now he can be a legislator and also an interpreter of the Constitution, allow the courts to do their job. That's what they keep on telling us every day. Allow the courts to do their job. The courts have ruled. The appointment of Mwaura to be chair of is within the law, because what we get as judgments from the court can apply as law, and therefore on that basis alone, whatever Otenda Molo has quoted and all those things that he's trying to show us are irrelevant to that point.
The Constitution is irrelevant.
The Constitution is relevant, but the people whose job is to interpret the Constitution have said this is the position, and therefore we want to stand by that. If the Court of Appeal makes a different ruling, yes, be it, and we shall change as it were. The second thing on the Mudama case, at that particular time we didn't have that ruling. We didn't have that ruling at that particular time when Mudama's matter was being adjudged, and therefore it cannot be the reason. It cannot be the yardstick to it. So for me, the only thing that matters here is there a ruling from the court, and they have always told us that we don't respect court decision. We are respecting a court decision now, that it has allowed this to happen, and we are okay to do it. But I also want to say this
briefly before,
yes,
because you're supposed to be winding up.
You should also tell
really
us
pinched for
what
time.
Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act says on political neutrality.
That also was considered by the court, and the court made its ruling on the same. It is not for me, Owen Bayer, to tell him what the court, whose job is to interpret the Constitution, did that.
All right.
Every time I learned something here in the last show when Otenda Molo told me that the job of the court is to interpret. Sometimes the court can even throw out a law. Sometimes the court can do this. Actually, the High Court. He said the High Court.
Forgive me.
And this is a ruling of the High Court.
I have to listen to Mungatana as well, so that we can close the show fairly as well, to just give him a sporting chance on this development.
No, I just wanted to...
Are you in agreement, first of all, with the position being espoused in regard to the law?
No, I wanted to say this. Article 260 of the Constitution defines what a public officer is. It defines a public officer both as a state officer, and it defines a public officer as any person other than the state officer who holds a public office. And this will include people who work in county governments, people who work in national government, and other offices. Now, this issue of can a public officer who hold a political position has been litigated many times. And it is correct for us to say, for now, that Katiba law stands. You can't say it is in interim, because it's a judgment. It's not even a ruling. It's a judgment of the High Court. And if you look at that Katiba law, the Katiba case, they quoted very, very many cases inside there to come to that conclusion. So their appointment is correct. They are not state officers. State officers are like the Attorney General, like the cabinet secretaries. Those ones, obviously, it's a no-no. But a public officer is so wide that I think it is allowable at some point to let some people hold political positions in a party as well as that. That's what the law says now as far as the interpretation of the High Court is concerned. But I wanted to say this.
Can I just cut you?
Let me finish
because
my point.
Amount under pressure, as I indicated earlier, we have to go right now.
Let me finish my point. the intention of the Mwananchi, I think, wasn't captured properly here. Because the way people wanted was a separation of politics from what government officers should do. So that you are not a DO and at the same time you're a chairman of a party. There was a desire, but that intention has not been captured properly in this constitution. And so I would say again that even though the intention of Mwananchi was totally different, the interpretation of what is there in the constitution allows public officers to actually hold these party.
Fantastic. Let's leave it at that. Danson Mugatana, Senator Tana River, Otene Molo, Senior Counsel, and also Member of Parliament Rarieda. I want to give you a sporting chance for closing remarks because of time. And also Okongo Mogini, Senior Counsel, Senator of Nyamira, Owen Bayer, who is the Deputy Majority Leader of the National Assembly, also Member of Parliament for Kilifi as well. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we really do appreciate it. I wish we had more time, but we can do this next week as well. We have to go and also talk about women and, of course, their rights as well. And that is what is coming up next as well. And we just want to yield the floor for that particular forum this morning. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching Siasa Fiesta here on Morning Prime. We continue pace with, of course, delivering news to you where you get the whole story here on KTN News. Keep your eyes peeled here and keep out your ears for more. Thank you. Have a good day.